Have you ever wondered why, despite so many possibilities, you still feel stuck? How is it that, with countless choices at your fingertips, we continue to tread the same paths, as if something invisible were holding us back? What if this barrier wasn't external but something built within yourself? As Rousseau once said, man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains. This isn't just about social or political systems. The hardest chains to break are the invisible ones within our minds. They're the limiting beliefs, the deeply buried fears, and the endless pursuit of security that in the end trap us more than they protect us. Imagine living in a dark room, furnished with the certainties you've accumulated. In this space, you arrange your opinions, fears, and convictions, believing it to be the only world that exists. One day, someone opens a window, revealing a landscape you never imagined. It's at that moment you realize the prison wasn't the room, but your inability to imagine what lay beyond it. Why do we remain trapped? Because it's comfortable, plain, and simple. Breaking out of old patterns is painful. It feels like leaving a part of yourself behind, almost like a small death. But staying in that comfort zone comes at a high price. We suffocate our spirit, lose our curiosity, and stop growing in any meaningful way. In this video, we'll explore how to identify the bars of your mental prison. We'll uncover why we cling to certainties that hurt us, learn how to challenge our paradigms, and discover how to reconstruct reality in an expansive, vibrant way. Together, we'll find a way out of this mental and emotional cave. Are you ready to challenge your certainties and take the first step toward freedom? Imagine for a moment that you are wearing glasses with tinted lenses. Everything you see is filtered through those lenses, the sky, the people, even yourself. Now, imagine that you were born with these glasses and never took them off. This seemingly simple metaphor holds one of the greatest secrets about how our mind operates. These glasses are mental paradigms, unseen filters that shape our perception of reality. This concept ties into an intriguing idea called the reality tunnel. It explains that our mind doesn't function like a camera, merely recording what's there. Instead, it works more like a curator, selecting what to perceive based on our beliefs, experiences, and expectations. In short, we don't see the world as it truly is. We see it as we are. These paradigms don't appear out of nowhere. They are built gradually, like bricks placed on an invisible wall. During childhood, we absorb the beliefs of our parents, friends, teachers, and society. Over time, these ideas solidify into absolute truths that shape not only how we perceive the world, but also how we live in it. Think of phrases like, "money is the root of all evil," or "true love is suffering." How many important decisions in your life have been influenced by beliefs like these? Plato captured the essence of this idea in his allegory of the cave. Prisoners chained since birth can only see shadows projected on a wall. To them, these shadows become the only existing reality. Plato's metaphor reveals something both frightening and profound. We often accept the limitations of our perception as unquestionable truths, never daring to look beyond the shadows. But there's something even more intriguing. This reality tunnel not only defines what we see, but also determines what we ignore. That's why two people can experience the exact same event and come away with completely different interpretations. Imagine a family dinner. For one person, it's a moment of joy and togetherness. For another, it's an emotional burden. The difference? They're filters. The problem arises when we become prisoners of these filters. When our beliefs become rigid, we lose the ability to explore new horizons. It's as if we're trapped in a room where the walls represent our certainties. We find comfort in these walls because they protect us from the unknown. Yet, over time, that same protection turns into isolation. And what does this mean in practice? It means that the most important decisions in your life, your career choices, relationships, even your vision of happiness, may be influenced by paradigms you've never questioned. It means that the fear of failure, judgment, or change might be preventing you from living fully. There's a high cost to living within this mental prison, a cost we don't always realize. By clinging to our certainties, we sacrifice curiosity, courage, and the possibility of growth. We become like Plato's prisoner, afraid of what might lie beyond the shadows. And perhaps most alarmingly, we believe those shadows are all that exists. But don't worry. There's a way out. The first step is admitting that you're trapped. And let's be honest, this takes courage, because recognizing that our beliefs aren't absolute truths can be deeply uncomfortable. Deep down, it's always easier to hold on to what's familiar, even if it hurts, than to face the unknown head on. But recognizing the prison is only the beginning. Just as an artist can erase and redo their painting, you too can reconstruct your perception of reality. This requires questioning your beliefs, exploring new perspectives, and above all, accepting that absolute truth might not exist. As Nietzsche once said, there are no facts, only interpretations. The journey to escape this mental prison is not easy. It demands constant effort to deconstruct the old and embrace the new. It's like learning to walk again on unfamiliar ground, but the reward for this effort is immense, the freedom to choose who you want to be and how you want to live. So I ask you, are you willing to take off the glasses and see the world with new eyes? Are you ready to break free from the shadows of the cave and discover what lies beyond? Why do we insist on clinging to our certainties, even when they bring us suffering? This is one of the great questions of the human condition. We are creatures of habit, and often we prefer the safety of familiar ground over the challenge of exploring the unknown. But what lies behind this resistance? Jean-Paul Sartre, in his book Being and Nothingness, says we are radically free. But honestly, that freedom is terrifying. When we realize we have infinite possibilities ahead of us, the weight of responsibility for making choices sets in. To escape this anguish, we cling to stories and certainties that give us a sense of stability. These certainties are like anchors in a sea full of uncertainties, providing refuge from the anxiety of facing the unknown. However, this refuge comes at a high price. When we fixate on a rigid worldview, we build walls that isolate us from new possibilities. It's like constructing a fortress around ourselves, believing it will protect us without realizing it also imprisons us. The more we reinforce these walls, the narrower our perspective becomes. Eventually, we become prisoners of our own ideas. Psychologist Carl Rogers described this phenomenon as the human tendency towards psychological defense. He explains that to protect our self-image, we reject information that challenges our beliefs. For example, if someone tells us we're wrong about a strongly held opinion, our initial reaction isn't to evaluate the criticism, but to instinctively defend it. This happens because questioning our certainties means questioning who we are, and that can be terrifying. But this mental stagnation isn't just an individual problem. It's something that happens on a group level too. Just look at how communities, political parties, or religions hold on to their ideologies, even when evidence clearly proves otherwise. History is full of examples of people who preferred to stay in the same place rather than face change, even when change was clearly necessary. One of the main reasons we cling to our certainties is fear. Fear of failure, rejection, or facing the unknown. Writer Franz Kafka captured this feeling in his story The Metamorphosis, where the protagonist, upon waking up transformed into an insect, finds himself trapped not only in his new body, but also in a life of isolation and repetition. This grotesque transformation symbolizes what happens when we resist change. We become stunted versions of ourselves. The danger of stagnation is that it's not static. It corrodes. When we stop challenging ourselves, our minds begin to atrophy. Creativity wanes, curiosity fades, and gradually, we lose our enthusiasm for life. We get stuck in a cycle of repetition, living day after day without any real growth. So how do we break this cycle? The key lies in developing what philosophers call an open mind. But hold on, it's not about accepting everything without question. It's about being willing to question your own beliefs and listen to other perspectives. It's about understanding that our certainties are only temporary and that the pursuit of truth is a never-ending journey. A practical way to do this is by practicing what philosopher Robert Anton Wilson calls cognitive flexibility. The idea is to occasionally try seeing the world from a completely opposite perspective. Not to agree, but to broaden your understanding. For example, if you're an optimist, try looking at things through a pessimist's eyes. If you're religious, explore how atheists think. This exercise not only challenges your beliefs, but also helps develop empathy and provides a more comprehensive view of reality. The way out of mental stagnation begins with accepting uncertainty. As the philosopher Søren Kierkegaard put it, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. This means that while we can seek meaning in the past, it is in the present that we have the opportunity to act and create change. So I invite you to reflect. What are the certainties you've been defending so fiercely? What are you afraid of losing if you question them? And more importantly, what do you stand to gain by letting go of these invisible barriers? Escaping mental stagnation isn't easy, but it's essential. It's a process that requires courage, patience, and the willingness to look within yourself. Yet once you begin, it leads to a life of discovery, growth, and freedom. Breaking free from the bars of a mental prison requires an act of courage that few are willing to undertake, the deconstruction of the self. This process is painful because it shakes the foundations of the identity we've built over a lifetime, but it is also profoundly liberating, like the moment a prisoner realizes the chains binding them were unlocked all along. The philosopher Nietzsche described this transformation as the path of the overman, someone who, by abandoning old beliefs and values, can create new meaning for life. According to him, you must become who you are. This invitation to metamorphosis is, in truth, a provocation to question who we think we are and who we can become. But how do we tear down the walls of the old self? The first step is to identify what we call rooted narratives. These are the stories we tell ourselves to justify our choices, fears, and limitations. Statements like, "That's just who I am and I won't change," or "I've always done it this way," are clear signs that these narratives are in control. These stories may seem harmless, but in reality, they act as walls that limit our worldview. Consider someone who grew up hearing that life is a struggle. This belief, internalized early on, can lead them to see challenges everywhere, even where opportunities exist. To deconstruct the old self, it is essential to question these narratives and ask yourself, where did this idea come from? Does it truly reflect reality, or is it just a mental construct? The deconstruction of the old self also involves facing the discomfort of uncertainty. We're so accustomed to clinging to our certainties that we forget the unknown is where true transformation happens. It's like the hero's myth. The hero must leave the safety of the village to confront the dragon. The hero knows the journey will be dangerous, but also understands it's the only way to find the treasure. A powerful exercise is practicing vulnerability. Writer Brené Brown, an expert on the subject, says, "Vulnerability is the antidote to emotional and mental rigidity." According to her, when we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we create space for new experiences and genuine connections. This means having the courage to say, "I don't know, I made a mistake," or "I'm learning." For many people, the greatest challenge in letting go of the old self is the fear of losing their identity. Who are we without our certainties, right? But as Heraclitus once said, no one steps into the same river twice because the river has changed, and so have we. This quote serves as a powerful reminder that change is inevitable, and resisting it is like trying to hold back a river's current with your hands. The secret to dealing with this fear? It's replacing the idea of loss with the idea of transformation. It's not about abandoning everything, it's about renewal. Just like a caterpillar leaves its cocoon to become a butterfly, we too need to shed the old self to reach new horizons. And listen, deconstructing the old self doesn't mean throwing away who you are. It's more about separating what truly matters from what no longer serves you. It's about letting go of the beliefs that hold you back while holding on to the values that move you forward. Think of it as renovating an old house. You can change the walls, but the essence of the house remains the same. So, I ask you, what's keeping you inside the cocoon? What beliefs, fears, and stories do you need to let go of to begin your transformation? Have you ever felt out of place, as if you didn't belong to any of the groups around you? That feeling of being caught between two worlds, unable to fully identify with one side or the other, might seem uncomfortable, but it holds immense potential for transformation. This is the state we call mental exile, and it is essential for escaping the prison of the mind. Mental exile occurs when we begin to question our deepest certainties, when we allow ourselves to doubt, not just the world around us, but also ourselves. It's like leaving the safe harbor of a familiar island to navigate uncharted waters with no guarantee of ever finding solid ground again. The Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard described this experience as the leap of faith. For him, the moment we abandon our certainties and plunge into the unknown is when we come closest to truth. However, this leap is far from comfortable. It's lonely, uncertain, and often frightening. Why is mental exile so powerful? Because it frees us from the shackles of the thought systems that imprison us. When we are part of a group or ideology, we tend to adopt its beliefs as absolute truths. This gives us a sense of belonging but also limits us, as it prevents us from exploring other perspectives. The moment we step away from these chains, we begin to see the world in a broader light. This journey of mental exile is no walk in the park. It's challenging because it requires us to face the discomfort of letting go of the image we've built of ourselves. For example, if you've always seen yourself as a highly rational person, it might feel strange to explore more spiritual or mystical ideas. On the other hand, if you're deeply connected to spirituality, thinking from a more scientific or skeptical perspective might feel completely foreign. This displacement is complicated because it forces us to confront parts of ourselves that, honestly, we'd rather ignore. But there is a unique beauty in this discomfort. When we become foreigners among ideas, we gain a freedom that few ever experience. We are no longer defined by a single system of thought. We can navigate between different perspectives, choosing what resonates with us instead of being confined to imposed truths. The writer and philosopher Albert Camus explored this idea in his work, The Myth of Sisyphus. For Camus, the human condition is characterized by the absurd, the tension between our desire for meaning and the lack of definitive answers in the universe. He argues that instead of fleeing from this absurdity, we should embrace it. Mental exile is, in a way, a reflection of this acceptance, an acknowledgement that truth can exist in multiple forms, and that our task is to explore these possibilities rather than fixating on a single one. Now, hold on. This mental exile isn't about blindly adopting new beliefs. It's about creating space for internal dialogue. It's like traveling to different countries. You learn a lot from diverse cultures, but you remain yourself. This practice not only makes us more open-minded, but also helps develop empathy as we begin to see the world through the perspectives of others. Mental exile is a solitary journey, but also a profoundly enriching one. It teaches us that we don't need to confine ourselves to labels or rigid systems of thought. We can become mental nomads, exploring the best of each perspective while continuing to build our own unique view of the world. Are you willing to leave the comfort of the familiar to explore the unknown? Are you ready to become a foreigner among ideas, embracing mental exile as a path to freedom? By accepting this journey, you will discover that the certainties that once seemed solid will begin to dissolve, and in the void that remains, you will find the opportunity to build something new, something truly your own. After deconstructing the cages of your mind and experiencing mental exile, the most exciting and challenging moment of all arrives: reconstruction. This is the stage where you transition from prisoner to creator, taking control of the filters through which you see the world. Here, you begin to build a reality tunnel that doesn't confine but expands. Robert Anton Wilson had an intriguing idea. He said, reality is like a work of art. We constantly construct it based on what we perceive and the choices we make. It's like renovating a house. If you've ever gone through that, you know that before you can start building something new, you must clear away the debris of what was there before. The mind is no different. To make room for the new, you need to let go of the beliefs that limit you and the old paradigms that no longer serve a purpose. The first step in this process is imagining the reality you want to live in. This isn't just about fantasies. It's about creating a blueprint for how you want your mind to interpret the world. Do you want to see the world as a place of infinite possibilities? As a space for continuous learning? Or as a journey rich in connection and purpose? It all begins with this vision. A practical way to start is by imagining the elements you want to bring into your life. For example, if you're seeking more joy, visualize yourself surrounded by people and situations that make you happy. If you're looking for more freedom, picture yourself exploring new paths, unafraid of what others might think or of making mistakes. It may seem simple, but this practice is incredibly powerful for helping you reprogram your mind. Building a new reality also requires cultivating curiosity. Don't settle for the world as it's presented to you. Ask questions, challenge what seems obvious, seek out new knowledge, and explore ideas that push the boundaries of what you already believe. As Socrates once said, an unexamined life is not worth living. Try setting a learning goal for the week. Choose a topic that's outside your comfort zone and dive into it. This could mean reading a book, watching a documentary, or even having a conversation with someone who thinks very differently from you. This practice not only broadens your worldview, but also makes you more open to embracing the new. Reconstructing your reality also calls for flexibility. This means being willing to adjust your beliefs as you learn new things. And speaking of that, accepting that mistakes are part of the process is a huge step. Often we cling to a particular worldview because we're afraid to admit we were wrong. But here's the thing, recognizing a mistake isn't weakness, it's courage. Every time you change your perspective, you're creating space for something greater and more authentic in your life. One of the pillars of rebuilding your reality is the environment you choose to nurture, both inside your mind and around you. Internally, this means paying attention to your thoughts and emotions. A simple and effective way to start is by practicing gratitude. At the end of each day, write down 3 things you're grateful for. This helps your mind focus on the positive and builds a more balanced and uplifting emotional foundation. Externally, it's about who and what you choose to surround yourself with. Want a more inspiring life? Seek out people who challenge and motivate you. Craving more peace? Set aside time to connect with nature or spend time in places that bring you serenity. It's all about aligning what's inside and outside with the reality you want to create. Think of rebuilding your reality as if it were a garden. First, you remove the weeds of old beliefs. Then you plant new seeds of ideas and perspectives. With time and care, these seeds grow, transforming your mental landscape into something vibrant and full of life. By rebuilding your reality, you become more than just a passive participant in life. You become a creator. This is the essence of freedom, the ability to consciously choose how you see the world and how you interact with it. So let me ask you, what would the reality of your dreams look like? What can you do today to take the first step toward it? The answer lies in your hands and, more importantly, in your mind. True transformation begins where we least expect it, within ourselves. While it's common to blame the external world for our limitations and challenges, the starting point for any meaningful change is how we perceive ourselves and the world around us. The first step in this process is self-observation. This means developing the ability to honestly and non-judgmentally examine your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. How often do you find yourself repeating patterns that no longer serve you? How much of your decision-making is influenced by fear or by beliefs you've never questioned? These questions may seem simple, but they carry the power to dismantle mental walls that have been built over years. One effective exercise is to keep a journal of reflections, noting recurring thoughts and intense emotions. Over time, you'll start to identify patterns and question whether they truly reflect reality or are merely interpretations rooted in outdated beliefs. To deepen this practice, silence and introspection are indispensable tools. Blaise Pascal once said that many of humanity's problems stem from the inability to sit quietly alone. We live in a world of constant distractions, making it easy to avoid confronting ourselves. Yet, it's in this silence that we find the clarity needed to recognize how our own ideas might be sabotaging us. Meditating, taking aimless walks, or simply setting aside a few minutes to be alone with yourself are simple but powerful ways to create space for self-awareness. Emotions play a crucial role in the process of transformation. We are often taught to avoid or suppress negative emotions like anger, sadness, or fear. However, these emotions are important indicators of our beliefs and needs. When you feel anger, what is it trying to tell you? What lies behind the sadness you avoid? Instead of rejecting these emotions, view them as messengers. They may be uncomfortable, but they carry the key to understanding what needs to be transformed. The practice of reframing is one of the most transformative tools in the process of internal change. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, believed that reframing was the foundation of resilience. He said, "When we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves." Think of a difficult event you've experienced. What did it teach you? How did it shape who you are today? Reframing is not about ignoring suffering, but about giving it a new meaning that allows you to move forward stronger. Internal transformation is a continuous process, not a one-time event. It requires patience and consistency as old mental habits tend to resurface. Establishing a daily or weekly reflection ritual can help keep this process in motion. At the end of each day, ask yourself, how did I grow today? What could I have done differently? This habit not only accelerates your transformation, but also helps create a sense of purpose in your journey. Accepting that transformation takes time is essential. We often desire immediate results, but deep changes do not happen quickly. It's like planting a tree. First, you nurture the seed, watering and protecting it, even when there are no visible signs of growth. Over time, the fruits begin to appear. The repetition of small daily actions, such as questioning a belief or adopting a new habit, has a powerful cumulative impact. Acceptance is also incredibly important in this process. Change is essential for transformation, but before that, you need to see reality for what it is right now. Accepting doesn't mean settling or giving up. It means understanding where you are today so you can use it as a starting point to get to where you want to be. Transformation begins with reflection. It's the foundation of any real change. When we reflect, we have the opportunity to question the stories we tell ourselves, make room for the new, and create a life that truly aligns with what we believe deep down. So let me ask you, what stories are you ready to reframe? What beliefs would you be willing to let go of to make space for something new? The power to change is in your hands, and the first step starts right there, within you. The mental prison is not made of physical walls, but of ideas, beliefs, and fears we accept without question. Freedom begins when we stop defending the walls that surround us and dare to walk through the door. But walking through that door requires effort. It's an act of intentional discomfort, stepping out of our comfort zone and confronting the parts of ourselves we'd rather avoid. We are like unfinished works of art, always in progress, and that is something beautiful. Escaping the mental prison doesn't mean simply abandoning what you believe, but learning to question those beliefs. It's about adopting curiosity as a way of life, exploring new perspectives, and accepting that truth is more fluid than fixed. True transformation, however, is not just about deconstruction. It also demands a commitment to reconstruction. When we let go of old beliefs, we create space for new ideas, new paradigms, and a fresh way of seeing the world. This takes patience. When we abandon the walls that confine us, we begin to see the world's beauty with renewed eyes. Small moments, a sunset, an honest conversation, an unexpected laugh, become sources of genuine joy. Every small choice you make, questioning a belief, exploring a new idea, facing a fear, contributes to creating a freer and more authentic life. Mental freedom is not something you achieve once and for all. It's a daily practice, a constant commitment to yourself. So here's my invitation to you. Today, take one step, no matter how small, toward the freedom you deserve. Question something you've never thought to question before. Try something new. Allow yourself to fail, to learn, and to start again. Life is not about having all the answers ready, but about learning to enjoy dancing with the questions. I'd like to take a moment to thank you, who made it this far, for your dedication and curiosity. Exploring the depths of the mind, questioning our certainties, and seeking transformation is no easy task. And the fact that you're here shows courage and a deep desire for growth. Throughout this journey, we've shared ideas that I hope resonated with you. Perhaps an unexpected insight emerged, a provocative doubt arose, or even a necessary discomfort surfaced. Each of these reactions is a sign that something within you is shifting, expanding, and allowing itself to be questioned. And that is wonderful. I also want to share something personal. When I first began reflecting on topics like these, I realized that for a long time I had been stuck in beliefs that weren't truly mine. The journey to break free was filled with setbacks, but it was also where I discovered that questions are more valuable than answers. That's why I feel so connected to each of you, because I know that in some way we're walking this path of self-discovery together. If this content resonated with you, I encourage you to share it with someone who might benefit from it. Often, a single conversation or a simple video can be the starting point for profound change. Now, as you reflect on everything we've discussed, 2 videos are appearing on your screen. The first dives into a topic that could further expand your perspective, but I'll let you discover what it is. The second offers a practical reflection to help you apply these ideas to your life. Either one could be the next step in your journey. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you won't miss our upcoming videos. After all, the journey out of the cave is ongoing, and the more questions we allow ourselves to ask, the closer we come to true freedom. Thank you again for being here.